All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something genuinely fascinating, a groundbreaking new book and methodology by Dr. Stephen L. Jordan Sr. called NeuroCARE and Transformative Coaching. If you're someone who really wants to master the mechanics of profound human change, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to unpack the entire architecture of this framework, looking directly at the source material to see exactly how it bridges that gap between cognitive science and human potential. So, let's jump right in. We've got to start right out of the gate with this incredibly powerful quote from Dr. Gary Charles Patterson's foreword to the text. He writes, "Transformation is not a method. It is a movement, a migration of the soul." Just let that sink in for a second. Coming from a master's certified coach, he is telling us right up front that what Dr. Jordan has built here isn't just another step-by-step coaching manual or a neat list of corporate buzzwords. It's actually a living, breathing architecture designed to foster genuine, profound human change. So here is our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. The promise of transformation. 2. Unpacking the NeuroCARE framework. 3. The care-cure double helix. 4. The architect, Dr. Jordan. And finally, number 5, bridging science and spirit. Okay, let's dive into it. Section 1, the promise of transformation, and the endorsements coming directly from the front lines. You know, the source material we're examining today is backed by a staggeringly diverse group of professionals. Take the executive level, for instance. Hospital CEO Lakeisha E. Hyatt actually describes the text as a practical toolkit that brilliantly bridges faith, neuroscience, and servant leadership. She really emphasizes how useful it is for intentional living and emotional regulation. Now, just as a quick aside, the source text notes that she's providing this endorsement strictly in a personal capacity, meaning her views don't reflect the official policy of the state of Connecticut or her hospital. But as an executive leader, she clearly identifies this methodology as something forged from a lifetime of real, tested, lived wisdom. And you see that exact same sentiment echoing right into the military sphere, too. There's this profound insight from active duty military chaplain Colonel John Paul Smith. He points out that in a world that is just hyper-focused on performance, NeuroCARE reminds us that the most effective leaders are not merely technically competent, they are fully human. Again, our source material is careful to note that his views are entirely his own and don't reflect the official policy of the U.S. Army or the Department of Defense, but hearing this from a practitioner who serves in highly demanding operational environments, it really highlights how this framework targets the very core of human resilience. It's a powerful reminder that whatever your specific battlefield happens to be, your humanity is, without a doubt, your greatest leadership asset.
Moving right along to Section 2, Unpacking the NeuroCARE Framework, or the Architecture of Presence.
Okay, so what exactly is NeuroCARE? At its core, it is an integrative coaching framework that actually unites neuroscience with wisdom traditions. And the ultimate goal? It's to guide clients out of those turbulent storms of dysregulation and into a clear state of calm competence. Dr. Deborah George Fairs points out something really crucial in the text here. She notes that this framework doesn't just settle for some kind of abstract insight. No, it's a scientifically grounded blueprint that is entirely focused on actual neurological transformation. It gives you a highly structured approach to help manage those intensely emotionally charged moments and literally regulate the nervous system. The whole methodology rests on 4 foundational pillars: compassion, awareness, regulation, and empowerment. CARE. Together, they literally build a pathway for coaching presence. And I want to emphasize, these are not just more buzzwords to throw around. They actually require practitioners to adapt their communication to meet the specific cognitive and developmental needs of the person sitting right across from them, bringing together established neuroscience and the core competencies of professional coaching. Which brings us to Section 3, the care-cure double helix. This is all about the tension of transformation. Think of the friction required for real growth as being a bit like a double helix. Master certified coach Morel Burgraff brilliantly articulates Dr. Jordan's care-cure double helix concept. She points out this fascinating truth. Support without challenge merely produces comfort. But on the flip side, challenge without support, that just produces strain. The absolute magic of this framework is that it refuses to choose between the two. Sustainable, lasting change lives entirely in the dynamic, rhythmic tension between support and challenge. So the crucial takeaway here is that having an aha moment just isn't enough to actually change behavior. Dr. David Scipio observes in the source text that NeuroCARE solves a very specific, stubborn problem. That gap between knowing what you're supposed to do and actually being able to do it when you're under immense pressure. Closing that gap requires a deep internal anchor. You literally have to connect cognitive insight with physiological regulation if you want to make transformation sustainable when the stakes are at their absolute highest. All right, section 4. Let's talk about the architect, Dr. Jordan, and how he teaches what he has lived. When you map out Dr. Jordan's life trajectory, it is honestly extraordinary. He started out as a GED graduate. From there, he spent 30 years serving in the armed forces, eventually going on to earn 3 separate doctoral degrees and achieving the absolute gold standard of an International Coaching Federation professional certified coach. Now, why does this trajectory matter? It's vital because it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that NeuroCARE wasn't just cooked up in some sterile academic laboratory. It was forged through decades of highly demanding organizational leadership, serious personal adversity, and just continuous disciplined learning. Going back to Dr. Patterson's foreword for a moment, he states, his model is autobiographical in the deepest sense. He does not teach what he has merely studied, he teaches what he has lived. The text notes that Dr. Jordan knows exactly what it feels like to sit in a doctoral seminar as a former GED graduate and be met with real dignity rather than condescension. That specific, lived experience permanently rewired him. It became the very bedrock for the compassion pillar of his entire framework. And finally, Section 5, Bridging Science and Spirit for Universal Application. So you might be wondering, how does a framework this deeply personal actually scale? Well, the vast applicability of NeuroCARE is, frankly, staggering. The source text features champions across wildly different professions. For example, you have Dr. B.G. Edison highlighting its immense value for executive leadership and human capital development. Then, you have Chaplain John W. Ellis pointing out its absolute necessity for military readiness and for bridging cognitive science with human potential. It seamlessly crosses the boundaries of healthcare, the military, executive coaching, and pastoral ministry, simply because our human cognitive needs are, at the end of the day, universal. Reverend B. Louis Colleton actually sums this up perfectly. He writes that NeuroCARE refuses to separate science from humanity, leadership from self-awareness, or faith from evidence-based practice. This holistic approach is really the framework's ultimate strength. It proves that evidence-based neuroscience and the deeply human elements of spirit and soul are partners, not competitors. They work right in tandem with one another to create meaningful and lasting change. Which brings us to this incredibly definitive statement from the endorsements. Dr. R.D. Simpson delivers this rapid-fire, bold assessment. The future of coaching has a name. It is NeuroCARE. He literally equates the arrival of this book to a generational standard, arguing that it permanently raises the bar for what transformative coaching must become in our modern era. So, that leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought directly inspired by this text. The framework challenges all of us to look way beyond just personal achievement or short-term performance bumps. So, I have to ask you, what legacy will your leadership leave for future generations? Are you merely managing situations, or are you actually creating the conditions for those around you to experience genuine transformation? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I will see you next time.